Once again, here we are, and here we go. It's me. I've got my phone. I've got my key. I'm outside. Just me and the wolf, right? Me and the wolf. Gonna be a bit of noise coming up. Gonna walk down by the harbor again. Looks like just move my mic a bit. Looks like a bit of cleaning going on the boat. I think that's I don't know what they catch on that boat. Crabs, lobsters, maybe anything they can sell, I imagine. Rough life. Must be cold out there this time of year. Must be really cold. Tough, right? I once met a guy at the end of the pier. He was fishing, and turned out that he used to be a fisherman, like on a boat. You know, he was standing at the end of the pier casting out his line. But he was saying that he was talking about how rough it was working on a boat, and how many people he knew that died. How many people he knew that died out there doing that, just trying to make a living, right? Just trying to earn some money, just trying to stay alive. And they died. You know, probably had wives and kids at home, right? Rough. Very rough. It's a bit windy this evening, so we'll see how much the wind blows into the mic again. I switched microphones, so I hope this microphone's going to be a little bit better than the previous one. But and I put a big muffler on the end of the microphone to try to stop the wind making too much noise. But like I said, we'll see. We'll see how it all goes. It's cold out. Must be about 0 degrees, I'd imagine, right now. Of course, it's not that cold if you're like in minus 15 or minus 20 or stuck up the top of a mountain in a tent somewhere. It's cold enough, though. As it goes, so it goes. I was wondering what me and the wolf were going to contemplate about this evening. And I came up with childhood memories. I came up with things that maybe shaped who we are. Things that happen. Obviously, when you're a kid, a billion things happen. A billion, million, trillion things happen when you're a kid. Like every 5 minutes, yeah. It is, it's crazy, right? All those events, one to another, and then, you know, they build up your life. But think back, and it's quite hard to remember a lot of the things that happened. I mean, some people do. Some people have better memories than others, of course. Some people shut things out, block things away. That's that's the muddle and mix and mess and stew and goulash of childhood experiences. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, schools, learning, parties, events, birthdays. It's all the good stuff, right? Friends, going out on your bike, playing games, chasing, running, just running, and running again. You're just running for the sake of running, right? Not really. having a reason except to explore, to learn, to grow, to share, to love, to give, to learn about life and how to flow like the water under the bridge. So I wanted just to think about, talk about, chat about, contemplate about whatever memories pop into my head. So here we go. I remember my parents once giving me a very specific time to be at home. And I was a pretty good kid. I did all that I was told to do. I finished my work on time. I handed in my homework. Some strange creaking sound coming from the boats over there. I told everybody what I was doing, where I was going. I didn't keep any secrets from anybody because there were no secrets to keep. Everything was out in the open. All the cards were on the table. When you're a kid, you wear your heart on your sleeve because you trust and believe everybody. And no one has given you the skills to discern, skills to separate and disentangle the mess and the madness of life. Or I say no people, right? I mean, there's going to be specific examples, blah, 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 blah. There's going to be specific examples in people's lives of people who have made a difference. They will be there, but a lot of the time kids are just left to sort of fend for themselves. The parents not quite sure what they're doing. Because their parents were not quite sure what they were doing, and so it tumbles down through the melee of history. And so my parents told me to be back for a certain period of time. And I don't know if it was because they were doing something or going out, or maybe it was just lunchtime. I don't know. They wanted me back a certain period of time. And I always followed the rules every time. But this one day, I went to another kid's house. You know how it is with kids, right? When you're out on bikes, you know, the kids bump into other kids, and there's people who know other people, and someone says, "Come here, go there," and you don't really know these other kids, but you end up at their place anyway. And this was especially true for me because I went to school in a different place from everybody else. I think my mother decided that the closest school to where I grew up was not the best school for me. So she wanted me to go to a different one, which she thought was better, and she was probably right. Hell, you can't ask a 5-year-old which school they want to go to. You know, they're not really. Well, you know what I mean, right? You got to have some knowledge and some history and some understanding, and be able to parse the details and information of everything. Anyway, just moving the mic again. Anyway, ended up at this kid's house, and we were playing and playing. I'm pretty sure that I had my watch. Now, how did I know that I had my watch? Well, I knew that I'd overstayed the time. I knew I'd overstayed the time. I knew that I was supposed to go home. I knew that I was late. I was never late. But this day I think I stayed. I was just having fun, and I just, I could have, What would be the sensible thing? The sensible thing would have been to say, "Excuse me, can I use your phone? Phone home, tell them where I am, and I'm going to be late." I didn't do that, so I just played and played and played and played and played and played and stayed and played and played. And I think we were just chasing each other around the garden, and I think there's probably a couple of tents there, and maybe some swords and guns with little rubber bullets or something like that. The Nerf guns or something like that. So um, eventually, my parents got worried and got in the car and started driving around the village looking for me. And I know this because they drove up that little road where I was playing, and they found me. And I don't remember what happened. I don't think I was punished because I think I would have remembered that. In fact, but you never know, right? You think back to how did my parents handle stuff? How did they punish me? Questions that everybody needs to be aware of or know the answer to, related to how they form their ideas of how the world works or should work. Yeah, part of that comes from the parenting discipline of how you instruct children, of how much freedom you give them to explore life, of the rules and the boundaries and how much you want to dive in and get involved, and how much you want to step back and take your hands off things. And there's a whole different paradigm of types and kinds of parenting skills, of fully hands-on. What do they call that thing? Like helicopter parenting, when you're always observing and looking down on everything your child is doing. I think that's what it means. And to people who are hands-off and they're like, well, my parents used to control everything that I did and I hated it, so I'm not going to tell my kid anything. Let them figure it out for themselves. And it's not a bad way sometimes. You want to let people figure out things for themselves, but you want to put them in a safe situation or a safe environment so that they can actually do it right, do it properly, do it without fear of negative consequence. So I was trying to remember about the kinds of punishments. I asked my father once about these things, and he was like, "Oh, I'm not sure. I can't really remember. It was a long time ago." It's like, God, Dad, it's kind of important, right? Some of those little things are big things. They're actually quite important, So how tall was the thief? And what was he wearing? Yeah. Some of these things become important, and it's not always obvious. It's not always evident at first that something is actually important. You have to, for that reason, you have to imagine or think that everything is important, and that everything matters, and that you need to be conscious of what's going on. You need to be conscious of your actions and other people's actions, and because there's a little bit less of a wind this evening. I can hear the waves crashing on the rocks down by the beach over there. Nice. It's a garden with a little rock pool in it. Personally, I would replace that with a jacuzzi, or a hot tub, but that's just me. And parked in front of their house is a canoe. Why not? Why not when you live next to the sea? Use it. Use your environment. All our lives and the things that happen in our lives are really our relationship of ourselves to others and the environment around us. So just think about businesses and what businesses exist and what resources are available. It's all related to environmental factors. So I can't remember how I was punished. There's a couple of times when I really thought I would be seriously punished by my parents for doing things, and they let me off and didn't punish me. And at which point I was like, wow, wow. I remember, let's see, computer games. I remember there was a Football Manager game. We're talking early computers here. I mean, we're talking 30 minutes to load up a game, and they were on cassette tapes, and um, your computer screen was like 4 pixels. Well, a bit more than that, but it felt like 4 pixels. Um, the early days. ZX Spectrum, ZX81, Commodore 64. I think there was early IBMs and apricots maybe around at the time. And those weird black floppy disks with the holes in the middle. The ones that got damaged very easily. Anyway, tapes got damaged very easily as well. Right? Anyway, there was a Football Manager game. And I was playing it and 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 playing it. Wanted to win. Some kids came around and said, "You want to go out?" And I said, "No, I want to go out, but I'm playing this game and I really enjoy it. And if I go out, then, Mum always makes me turn the computer off if I go out, and then I'll lose my progress in the game." And Mum said, "Well, I guess you can leave it on." And I was like, I remember like my jaw dropping open and me thinking, wow, she must really want me to go outside. And it was cool because I could go outside and play, knowing that I could come back and finish my game. And that was a nice memory. I remember, yeah, there's a lot of things around the games and the technology. I had a small TV in the bedroom, and used to I'd go to bed, and I wouldn't be able to sleep because my parents would be up and they'd be watching TV, and I'd just be lying in bed, cuddling my bear, and they'd be. You could hear what they were watching, right? You could hear it through the wall, and you couldn't sleep. All you could do was just listen to the audio of their program and imagine the pictures. Sometimes I would creep up out of bed and turn on the TV and watch a program with the sound down really low. I'd be right next to the TV, and I remember doing that for some sports event one night. I think it was the Super Bowl. And I had this chair in my room with a wonky leg. I fell off the chair. Crash. Big noise. Turned off the TV, jumped into bed, and Mum comes through. "What's this? What's that noise?" Caught. I was caught. Whatever. Whatever. Sometimes our execution when we are kids isn't perfect. I guess we're exploring the world and possibilities, and we're looking for examples. We're always looking for good examples of things that we can do, of things that we can follow, of people and ideas, and what we're going to do in the future, and the next cool thing, and always looking. Once, welcome to Confessions. Do you have anything to confess, my son? Well, I once stole £10 from my mother's wallet to buy a computer game. Now, quite how and why this all occurred is still a bit fuzzy in my head. I wish I knew. I wish I could remember more about it, because it's all it's partly it's a bit of a blur. But I remember I had a friend coming around. Maybe it's, sometimes I think it comes down to the weather. That's what I think it comes down to. It comes down to the fact that when it's cold and it's dark and it's wet, then there's not much you can go out and do for a certain part of the year. I mean, it's not even as bad here in this part of Scotland as it is if you go further north to the islands or Scandinavia or whatever, where it just gets colder and darker for longer. So, yeah, I once stole £10 to buy a computer game. Now, why I stole £10, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, the reason behind the reason, right? I mean, there was a friend coming around, and I wanted to do something. I wanted there to be something new and interesting for them when they came round, because obviously we'd played all the old games and we'd done those things, and there wasn't much. There didn't seem to be much else, and maybe I wasn't that creative when I was a kid. I'm not sure, because you would have thought that we could have just been creative and done creative things together, but apparently I really, really wanted to play a computer game. And this kid who was coming round, he was not a kid who'd go outside and do stuff. He was an inside kid. He was a Game Boy, and sort of technical, mathematical kind of guy, and he liked his computer games, and I really wanted there to be a game for us. Maybe for me, maybe for him, I don't know. And I knew we were going into town. And so I don't remember exactly how it happened. But I took the money and bought a game, and that was that. It was there. And I remember my mother looking for the £10, saying, "Have you seen it? Have you seen it anywhere? Do you know where it is?" And me saying, no, I haven't seen it anywhere at all. And then later, as me and my friend were playing the game, it's one of those sort of Street Fighter, Kung Fu, Way of the Exploding Fist kind of games with the 4 pixels on the screen. And my friend talked about it being pretty good for a new game, new experience. I think my mother was in the room, and she said, "Oh, did you buy a new game?" And I can't remember what I said. I think I probably said, oh no. Kicked my friend. Pretty sure I did something like that. But it's a very bad experience for me. I felt absolutely terrible after that all happened. I felt, and I couldn't admit it to my parents. I don't know why I couldn't admit it, because I would like to have been that kind of kid that could go up to their parents and say, "I have something to tell you about what happened," and I couldn't do it. I could never do it. I still feel really shitty about it today, actually. Like, I don't know, 30 years later. It's more than 30 years later. I feel really bad about that. Still remember it. And it's funny because I was saying earlier that I was a good kid and I did everything. And I think even maybe even good kids push the boundaries at some point in time and do some things that they shouldn't do. But it was to me, it's a question of morality. Where does your morality come from? Where does your ethical framework come from in life? You know, why do you choose to do what you do? Why is there a voice in your head telling you to do it or not to do it? Where does that come from? Is it nature and some part of your independent spirit, or is it nurture? Is it something you've learned from somebody around you or your environment or the TV or lyrics in songs? Yeah. You know, I was doing something the other day and an old Bon Jovi song came into my head. And I was sort of singing along the words, and there's this line: only God knows all the reasons, but I bet he must have had a plan. Cause you were born to be my baby. Baby, I was made to be your man. Something like that. And, whoa, happy songs from a different time. And I was thinking, I was thinking they sneaked that one in there, didn't they? That little nugget of truth there. Only God knows all the reasons, but I bet he must have had a plan. Oh yeah. So what else do I remember? The early tapes, the early music albums. And my parents had a little games room that at birthdays and Christmases I seem to remember getting almost anything that I asked for. I don't think I asked for too much. Maybe I asked for the standard or the average, but I don't think that I don't think I really wanted for anything in terms of gifts, which leads me to the question of why were there so many gifts? Because kids don't want gifts. Kids want love, right? That's what kids want. They want to know someone's listening to them. They want somebody to be attentive to them. You know, it's that thing about putting on a film or playing a film for kids. It's like the kids don't really care that much about the film. What they care about is whether you will watch the film with them. And parents tend to like plonk, that's a good word, their kids down in front of a TV or a monitor or a computer screen and leave them there. And well, what the kids really want is interaction, or some kind of framework of interaction where you will play with them. That's what bugs me about parents who split up, right? And one of the parents wants the kids. It's like, so basically you're saying the other parent can't play with the children. I wonder why you would do that. I wonder what the children might learn from playing with the other parent. Huh? What are you trying to say? Who are you trying to protect? Is there something you're trying to hide? Because, you know, at the end of the day, the the truth always comes to light. You know that, right? You know that. There's no escape. There's no escape on this mortal coil. The truth will maybe not be completely visible at first, but over time a vision will emerge of what is real. And it might take people time to understand. It might. You can't force knowledge on people. It doesn't work. People have to come to their own conclusions about everything, which is, I was going in my head through some imaginary conversations that I might have with people. Because I do that. I think about meeting people and what they'd say and what I'd say. Not because I want to plan the whole conversation, because that's stupid and it just would defeat the purpose of conversation, wouldn't it? I don't want to plan the whole conversation, but I want to think about what might be interesting for them, and make sure that I include some interesting element or topic. Yeah, I do that. I think about other people. I think about where they are and what they're doing and what they might need. Like I was explaining the other day to somebody, how do you show someone that you care? It's not by buying stuff for them. It's not by giving them things. Yeah. It's really by being there for them. A good way is to go to somebody and ask them if there's anything that they need. It's such a simple act, such a simple question. Is there anything I can get for you? Is there anything that you need? Can I help you with something? And no, I haven't seen that many people do it. Maybe I've just been around the wrong people sometimes. But yeah, I haven't seen that many people do it. I was going to talk about a conversation I had, and now I can't remember exactly which conversation it was. But that's what happens. We're up high on the hill now, overlooking the town, on this little walk with Wolfie. I still haven't decided walks with Wolfie or talks with Wolfie. I don't know. The mysterious alter ego character. It's just good to get out, I suppose. It's pretty chilly outside, though, I have to say. It's making my nose run. That's for sure. Looking down now over the east beach, you can see some white crested waves through the darkness down there. Wow. So I was talking about flip back now, turn back a few pages, shall we? I was talking about childhood experiences that I remember. I remember falling out of a tree once. I remember thinking, that looks a great branch to swing from, and it snapped, and I fell down and fell on my back, and it really hurt, and I think I was screaming, crying. Kids are resilient, right? One minute you're screaming, crying, and in pain, and next minute you're running around. Doesn't happen so often with adults. Maybe that's because some adults have permanent pain. Right. Oh, wow. So, yeah, I remember that. I remember, what other things do I remember? I remember my parents, there was some work being done around the house once. And my parents told me, whatever you do, don't go near that big hole or something. And the hole was right next to the door, so I had to go out. And I went out, and I don't know what happened. You know what? I think I was playing with a ball, and the ball went down into this hole that workers were digging in, and I was like, I'll just jump down and get it, and then jump out again. And because when you're a kid, it's just like, I'll just do this, no worries. I jumped down, I got it, I think. I mean, I'm going by memory here, and from many years ago. And as I was climbing back up out, there was sort of a sharp edge to the top, some kind of like concrete or something, and I grazed my leg on it, and it was a really, really, really strong graze. And you know how grazes are worse than cuts, right? If it's cut, it's just like, well, it's cut, and out comes the blood, yeah. But if it's a graze, that is so painful. And I was screaming. I've got vague memories of parents putting some ointment or liquid or something on my leg, and some kind of gauze or bandage or something. Parents are good at patching up kids, right? And kids are... Oh, the wind's got up a bit. Oh, it's quite a strong wind on this side. Quite a strong wind. I might just cross over the road here a little bit. Do a little bit more of any other memories that I have that I can think of right now. Just random stuff. As a kid, having cap guns. The guns that you would, you'd be like a little revolver, and you'd get a, I don't even know what to call it. It would make a bang, like a little bit of gunpowder or something sound, and you get these caps that were round, and there'd be like 6 or 8 shots. You'd buy the caps separately, of course. So we, make the money, sell the gun, and then you have to buy lots of caps to fire on the gun. We're running around the garden with friends, shooting each other with the cap guns. That was pretty fun. Don't know why I remember that. I remember my parents had Mr. Freezes in the fridge. These were giant. Mr. Freezes were giant, arm-length ice lollies in a thin package, and it was summer food. Well, not really food, it's an ice lolly. It's just a flavored stick of ice, and so my dad was friends with somebody, a man called Mike, who worked in the drinks company, the soda drinks company. Sol Ripe, I think, was the name of the company. And he used to get these boxes from him. I don't know if he bought them or got them. He used to get these boxes of Mr. Freezes. And they would sit at the bottom of my parents' freezer, big freezer. And on a hot day, I'd be out in the park. Because everybody would just hang out in the park, right? And then somebody would come along with a ball, and then you'd play football, and then you'd play for like half an hour, and then if it was summer, it'd be warm, and you'd get hot and tired, and I'd nip back home and get 5 or 10 of these Mr. Freezes out of the freezer, and pop back into the park, and everybody would sit on the grass and have one. You'd suck the the color out of it. The color was the flavor. And yeah, that was kind of fun. That was a kind of fun thing. I think I worked out later on that some of the kids were only friendly with me because they could get a Mr. Freeze. There's an early lesson. There's an early lesson in life, right? Oh, well, people are only friends with you for the things that they can get from you. That was funny. That was funny. I should talk sometime about school and maybe some of my experiences there that were interesting. I got into a couple of fights at school. The good kid got into a couple of fights at school. That was odd. How did I end up in? Does everybody end up in a fight in school at some point in time? Something in the back of my head says that everybody has a conflict at some point in time. You're gonna shut all these kids in the same space together, then they're gonna get on each other's nerves. Especially if you only give them 5 minutes here and 10 minutes there to get the energy out of themselves. So yeah, I got into some fights. We could talk about that. Could talk about the girls at school. That would be a fun topic. I don't know where that would go. I'm sure there's so much stuff that happened that I can't remember, And the point about that is, memories matter. Memories are important. And for many years I used to say, and here comes Thor's hammer crashing through the anvil, right? For many years I used to say I felt like I was born at the age of 17. Like nothing much significant happened before that point in time. Now, it's not always a bad thing, because if you have a quiet childhood, maybe you've got space to develop and be you. God, the wind's getting up off the sea now. I'm gonna cross back over, and I'm walking up the edge of the river, but I'm gonna cross back over the street and back up towards the flat, because the wind's just getting up. The audio is going to be rough enough as it is without making it even worse. So oh my gosh, what was I talking about? Oh my god, I can't actually remember what I was going to talk about before I changed direction there. Retrace the train of thought back to school and fights. That's it. School and fights. I don't remember getting into any fights in primary school. I think I was just too afraid. I was a fit kid, but I wasn't a fast kid or a big kid or a strong kid. I was an average kid. I was just kind of average at everything. I was just a little bit better than average at everything. I was good at sports because mother was a sports teacher, and I spent most of the time following her around to different sports events or killing time in the hall with a basketball while she finished her work. So, you pick up quite a bit of knowledge about sports doing that, and you try to apply it. Which is not really stories about fights, but girls and fight. I should save that for another day, really, because I'm going to finish this in about a minute. But girls and fights. That would that would be a that would be a great topic to go into, because I remember a few fights. How did the good kid get it? No, you just can't avoid it in that kind of environment. There's always something going on. So, well, that was it. Those are some random memories from my childhood. Now, those are things that it's like 0.0000001% of what happened. Even maybe even less than that. What are those? What makes a defining moment of childhood? What makes a defining moment in life? Do we ever know? Can we ever see where it's all going? You know, it's always darkest before the dawn. That's what they say. It's always darkest before the dawn. Walks with Wolfie. Talking to my alter ego. We're back at the flat. Thank you very much for tuning in to the secrets of the past. Come to light as they do at last. Wherever you are, wherever you're doing, have a good one.